Hey you, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification button, because if you don't, I will come and take all your cookies. Serious. People who were in gangs. What was your initiation, and how did you feel during after going through it? NSFW. I let one guy copy off my test in middle school. Tall Mexican kid with gelled back hair, 17 years of age and held back from going into 8th multiple times. When he found out he passed the class, we shared history because I let him copy off that one test. He gave me a big hug and shook my hand. The following year I would sometimes get a ride home from him, and stop by McDonald's. Apparently in the area he is fairly well respected now, and I get nods by the shadiest looking guys on the street. Some even smile and know my name. My mom works in a laundromat on a bad side of town, and these three guys in red will stand outside the business with their smokes and bottles in brown paper bags while she does the cleaning. They leave when she leaves. So that's my little story. Pretty lame, but hope someone enjoys. No, I like stories like this. Thanks man. I know it's not about a vanilla initiation or crime. Just helped a guy pass a class. Glad some people thought it was neat. Are they protecting you guys, or just making sure you don't turn him in for cheating and send him back to 7th grade again? Actually pretty neat how they're like guarding your family even though you never had to be in the gang. I'd like that, I think. For some reason your story was my favorite I have read so far. In 1989, before the Mexican Mafia in Southern California consolidated its power through MS-13, there were a lot of smaller Mexican gangs. The one I was most familiar with was ESP, or East Side Paramount. A close friend of mine was neighbors with a kid from the Norwalk One-Ways, which was an offshoot of Especially. Anyways, this kid, Rocco. Yes, Rocco was like 12 and real badass. He was a straight gangster at that age, and his later criminal accomplishments would prove his gangsterness. Rocco's good friend wanted to join the gang and was willing to get jumped in. This kid was much smaller than a chunky Rocco, and in true gangster fashion, Rocco would agree to mentor him into the gang as long as he could confirm he was no pussy. So a pre-jumping in was planned in the parking lot of a local church. The rules were laid out by Rocco as follows. It's a one-on-one fight. You must fight back the entire time. The fight ends when this bike wheel stops spinning on this upside-down BMX bike. He then spun that wheel and started a no less than 5-minute beatdown on this 11 or 12-year-old skinny Mexican kid. Rocco's friend fought back the entire time, never gave up and showed tremendous heart. This little kid was not afraid of a beating, and I thought for sure he had won some respect. The big surprise was when that wheel stopped spinning. Rocco really started beating his ass. He kicked him in the face with his Converse. He picked him up and threw him on the concrete over and over. Rocco's fists were so sore that he just started choking him over and over. It was a real beatdown. In the end, Rocco called him a fucking pussy, and it was all a setup just to beat this kid's ass. It was all real sad, and I think seeing this level of violence really gave me a pragmatic view of the world ever since. Rocco sounds like a real piece of shit. Is he dead now? I kind of hope so. He was a little piece of shit without a redeeming quality. He went straight to jail very early and has stayed there. He is very typical for product of the Mexican fighter gangster culture. His dad would say it's all about money, power and bitches. When I told my dad the same thing, he said, no it's not. Thank God I believed him. Third world country. Not something I'd like to talk about. I still regret messing up my life with it. In 2001 I joined a gang. Not by choice, but more by association. My house was smack dab in the middle of their turf and on the corner where they would chill. There was no major initiation other than me getting my CCC marked, which was basically nothing more than the top ranking 3 headlocks. Outing their marijuana joint on your arm in a triangle without your flinching. For those who smoke marijuana, you know it's nothing like outing a cigarette. That shit hurts. The feeling after knowing you're one of them, that you're part of a family, well, to me that was the best feeling in the world. I felt invincible. I used to go out of my way to cause trouble and provoke rival gang members just because I knew my squad had my back. Then a couple years after, I witnessed my best friend getting shot in the back of the neck in a surprise gang ambush. I remember everything about it in vivid details. From the moment life left his eyes, his blood on my clothes, spraining my ankle running for dear life, and hiding from home for days because I feared for my mom and brothers. Gangs can give you the greatest feeling in the world, until it's time to put in work. Edit. For some of the people asking if I'm out and what I'm doing now, well, that same night I decided gangs were not all they are cracked up to be. From the time your boys realize shit got too real, then it's every man for himself. The real deciding factor was when I called my mom that night and told her to leave home and stay the week by my aunt because Wiz is dead. She told me, how do I explain to my brother that you committed suicide for a colored rag? As for what I'm doing with my life, for the past 7 years I've been a high school teacher educating kids. Some of my students have parents who were in the same gang I was in as well, the opposing gangs. The problem is that they glorify the gang style, and think because I got out safe and I'm a teacher that they can do the exact same thing. What are you doing now with your life? And did you change things around once you saw your best friend get shot? For the past 7 years I've been a high school teacher trying to instill common sense into them that they don't make the same decisions I did. And it's hard. And as for your second question, that same evening I decided to leave that life. I'm just lucky the gangs down here are not as strict as those in other countries. You have the privilege of just leaving unharmed. Not that any part of my life is as hardcore as yours, but putting out a cigarette on your arm hurts pretty fucking bad. I was in one for around 7 years before realizing what an idiot I was. It started off just doing drop-offs for a friend's older brother who was a well-known dealer. Then I started buying relatively large amounts of gear and street selling. Then it was getting in with a club owner, the uncle of said friend, and being muscle for a couple of months making a shit ton of money. Initiation was a wrist brand, which I still haven't had to wear long sleeves to cover up. I got out after the club was raided by police and the owner did time. Still see him around though. Buys me a drink if I see him, asks how I am and if I need any work to call him. Fuck it though. Too little money to too big of a risk. Have you seen a doctor to try and get it removed? Or, my choice, get a tattoo artist to help you out. Too late for a skin graft. Tattoo would be lumpy and I don't know how tattoos look on scar tissue, but I doubt it'll look pretty. I'm trying out this bio oil shit, but I don't see much change. Talk with a tattoo artist about any ideas you'd have and they'll be real about what you can reasonably get over the scar tissue. I don't know if it'd hurt more than normal given the weakness in the area, but if you're trying to cover it up that way, there are color tones and art ideas that can adapt to whatever is wrong with the skin in a given area. Throwaway time. I was in what was I guess more of a crew, that eventually turned into a gang, then split, and became multiple gangs. There wasn't so much of an initiation when we formed as well. It was just us forming a crew to sell drugs. Some guys were into CC fraud. Think 1998-ish era when that was insanely easy. And some of the other guys were involved with theft, like big theft, not stealing cheese from Walmart. Mainly we all kind of came up together, so we knew who was down and who wasn't. It was not really about street rep or anything. More just making money. You more or less earned your way in by doing dirt. This was at the start of it. You moved drugs. A lot of them. And people knew you were in. Like I said, we all knew each other. There were rival guys and idiots who tried to be jackers and ended up burning all their relationships and fading away. But most of us all worked together, setting up drug lines, getting organized, having people run those lines. After a while the structure got much bigger and much more complex. PGP phones, establishing direct connections with importers, chemists, smugglers, mules, connections in other cities, and all of the people in on it were known and trusted. If you didn't know someone from a way back, you simply weren't trusted to do anything more than work for the gang. Never in it. You could have made your way into it over time, but this gang was just a big crew of people making money. It wasn't until later on it split into multiple factions that people put a name to each faction. Thing is, it was only about making money. That was it. The only reason a name was put on it was of the split and people jumping sides. There was never a beatdown to get in. You were either trusted or not. Later on, the newer guys had to work lines, basically be the guys taking the risk, or hitters, etc. The crew gang grew organically with younger siblings, their friends, etc. Once big money became involved, the violence came. Then the wars broke out. Then everyone figured it was retarded and police activity and investigations were bad for business. So it died down. It still happens, but it's now back to the 100% making money business. I caught some serious charges roughly 5 years into it and left. Cleaned up my life and paid my debt to society. I never really had to worry about enemies. I didn't have any. I was in it for money. Saying that, there were many deaths once things got split up. I've been shot at just for being with people, and I am lucky I got out alive. I told everyone I am out, and that was that. They were cool with it. I still see them around time to time, and we chat, etc. But that's it. I don't know what they are doing now, nor do I care to. These kind of gangs aren't street gangs. Street gangs work for these kind of gangs, taking all the risk, doing all the stupid jump-ins, etc. I now work a boring office job, and I am just another Joe Blow in a suit going to work on the train every morning. Well, did you feel like you were in a position of power? When did you realize that you were on top? When you started making connections with importers and stuff. Also, your throwaway name makes me chuckle. I have no idea why. It just sounds so funny. Hey, you made it until the end. We are best friends now. Like this video, hit the subscribe button, and remember, if you don't, I'll come back and take all your cookies away. See you in the next video.